Hi, Stacy. How are you today?
Good, Julian. Jillian, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I am so happy that you're joining me today for this podcast because I started working with you so many years ago, and I've been with you through all the different phases before divorce, during divorce, after divorce. And I feel like I saw maybe a different form of you along the
Yeah.
way, like maybe as you were changing. And do you mind if I share how I got connected with you?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, awesome. So hopefully our viewers like this. Stacy's one of her four daughters was doing an internship for me many, many, many years ago. So doing an internship for supportive divorce solutions, some marketing. She's a grown up now. Not that she wasn't in college, but how do these kids
For
grow
sure.
up?
For
And
sure, I know.
years after that, you were thinking about divorce, and she's an adult. Saying might get divorced. I don't know. And she said you need to talk to Jillian.
She did. She saved me. Yeah, the universe aligned for us for sure.
It
For
really
me.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in that. We're both a big
me
believer in
too.
that the universe will bring people to us that we need in all different types of
Yeah.
situations. And this situation for you was divorce. Do you remember whether it was, I don't know, maybe a certain like exact moment or just a culmination of years, how you were ready to say, I think I need to get a divorce.
I think that it was really both. I think that I had spent some time thinking about it. What would that look like? What does that mean for myself, for my kids, for our family unit?
Mhm.
Um, So I had spent a lot of time thinking about it. But there was one exact, I think that, like we said before, the universe aligned. So for me, different things started falling into place
Mhm.
to make me go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or I think that this is the right choice for me. But it took me a really long time to be 100% sure. I
Right.
didn't want to be the problem. I didn't want, my kids to be disappointed or sad or upset. So I was actually sitting on my brick steps of my house,
Mhm.
and I was really like by myself thinking,
Yeah.
of course, about this. And I saw four baby bunnies right next. I have like a garden right next to my brick steps, the
Yeah.
entranceway. There were four baby bunnies in a nest. And I look over and I happen to see one. And as I look, there's actually four, and I have four girls. So I was like, that was my sign from the universe that this is going to be fine.
Mhm.
And then, my Abby said, you really got to get in touch with Jillian. And
Mhm.
so once I was in touch with you, I feel like everything naturally fell into place, and I felt like I could do
Mhm.
it really because of you. That's just what I needed to
Yeah.
move forward and to feel confident. Although I didn't feel confident right away, that took some time.
No, no, no. And that's one of the things that I really love to do is build up the confidence.
Yeah,
It's so much more than the numbers. Yes, I do the numbers. Yes, it's important. Yes, it's the biggest financial transaction of your life, most likely. But if you can't build some confidence, if you can't feel safe, if you can't feel
yeah,
secure, if you can't see there's light at the end of the title and how beautiful that independent life is going to be, we're never going to get to the numbers. We're not
yeah.
going to get to them, right?
Yeah, I remember sitting in my car, my first meeting with you. I had pulled off to the side in this little garden area, and my first meeting with you, and I was like, I can, with you, I think I can do this because you, in the beginning, you gave me lists of what I needed to do, and so it felt
Mhm.
very manageable.
Mhm.
We were in a kind of, I would say, a traditional marriage where I raised the kids. I had a preschool in my home. I was so busy with my little life that I didn't even know necessarily what our finances looked like, what we had. I didn't know. I don't even think my name was on much of anything.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah.
So, I look to you for, what are my steps and how do I manage this new path?
Right, exactly. Yes. And I find that so many women, they aren't quite sure of what's there. And even if they are, it's going to be a new life afterwards, you know?
Yeah.
So whether you know what's there, don't know what's there, things are in your name, aren't in your name, it's still a completely different life afterwards.
Yeah.
Even if it's, I know some of the retirement plan, it's not the same retirement plan anymore, right? You know,
No, right. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
going to be a very different retirement plan. And Stacey, one thing I just thought of, because there's so many different types of divorce and situations, and women have a lot of the same fears and needs and wants, a couple different things there. Um, but many have the same as well. So something that can be different, what I'm getting to is you wanted to know everything. You were worried, of course. You were starting to gain confidence, but not all women think there's no way I'm going to have anything to live off of. You knew that things were going to be like okay. You knew
Yeah.
that, you weren't going to be living on the street, but that's certainly not enough. So could you speak to that where it's, where you weren't terrified you weren't going to have a penny necessarily, but what you wanted me to do for you?
Um, I think that I just wanted to, I think this is what you mean. I think I wanted to just make sure that I was entitled to what I was entitled to because I didn't
Mhm.
even know that, right? Like I had no idea what the New York State law was, or I just wanted to make sure. I mean, I had a different situation. Also, I'm, extremely fortunate. We are on amazing terms. I just had one of my daughter's graduations, and he was there with his girlfriend, and all was fine and well. So I feel really fortunate in that sense. But I think that after beginning the process, I think that I didn't say anything initially. I,
Mhm.
I talked with you a little bit.
Mhm.
I think I had hooked up a little bit with the lawyer that you helped me find.
Mhm.
Um, so before I asked for the divorce, I had some ideas of
Right.
what it might look like.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think I just wanted to make sure that I was going to receive what I was entitled to.
Right.
Yeah,
And
did I answer your question? Does that make
oh
sense?
yeah, that absolutely answers my questions. That's actually perfect. And one of the things that you said was, what am I entitled to? Can I get an idea of that at least? Like give me a little bit of that, somebody, whether it's Jillian or the attorney or whoever it may be. And there's so much misinformation out there. And whether it's someone you're close to, not close to, Chat GPT, Claude, Gemini, you fill in the blank. It
Yeah.
is so unique. And if someone's, they're talking to, this wasn't your situation, but it just reminded me of a good example. Someone's talking to their sister, and they live in Florida and you live in New York, and she got a divorce 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And she's telling you, you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to watch out for this. Okay, well, first of all, the law is very different from state to state, and that's
Right.
why we have the attorneys that are they have their practice in that state. So that's one thing. The law changes all the time. There was a huge change to spousal support, also known as alimony,
Mhm.
not too many years ago. So there's a whole other wrench to put in. And one of the things that I really like, and we were able to do a little bit of, is creative settlements, where instead of literally dividing everything down the line, everyone gets their fair share of the whole picture, but maybe we're able to take some cash from somewhere and give up something else. So between making sure you are talking to the right people and creative settlements, that's where I think we can really get into specifics for someone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And during I feel like you've done a good job, like always, taking care of yourself. You have very healthy habits. You have very healthy habits. They're similar habits that I have. And during the divorce, did you up doing those things or change anything or add on anything to keep yourself healthy? Extra yoga classes or extra gardening, fill in the blank?
You know, I don't think so. I don't think that I did, but I do know that when I did, have that initial conversation
Yeah.
with my then husband, I did feel a tremendous weight just lifted. So that makes me emotional.
That's
um,
okay.
yeah, it just felt lighter.
Yeah.
So then the things that I could do, I just felt lighter. I think I carried a lot for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. You don't have to be sorry. You don't have to be sorry at all. I met with a client to talk to for the podcast just a few days ago, and she started crying a little bit, and I started crying a little bit in
Oh,
another spot. And that's okay
yeah.
because this is so
Yeah.
emotional, right? Even looking
Yeah.
back and thinking about something that's when the weight was taken off of me. We can cry about things that were hard. We can cry about things that are beautiful.
It was hard and
Um,
it felt good all at the same time.
yeah, yeah,
So,
like talk about a whirlwind.
I think from then on, I just started, I started being like who I wanted to be, or
Mhm.
who maybe, I think our directions were kind of going in different directions, right? Like we were very together initially, and then it started to go in different directions. So I think that I
Mhm.
felt just more confident, and I could more easily be that person that was going in this direction.
Mhm. Yep,
So just,
absolutely.
I think I just spent time making sure my kids were good and, doing whatever it was the next step was. I think I focused on more of just the process and getting through it. That did take kind of a long time.
Mhm.
But uh, I got through it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Sometimes,
Remember making a phone call one time.
yeah.
I don't even remember who it was to.
Mhm.
And I wound up doing it many times. I just had to be honest. I was like, I am, going through a divorce. I'm
Mhm.
not sure how this works. I'm not sure what I need to do. Can you help me?
Mhm.
Um, and
Mhm.
people are really great about it. I didn't have anyone that wasn't super understanding, explain things to me fully. I keep this little notebook now of all the different things I have to do around the house, or so it's,
Yeah.
you know, if you're
Getting the bills in your name, right? You had a lot, there's a
yeah,
lot to do. There's a lot to do after the divorce, changing beneficiaries, getting bills in your name, so many little things, redoing a will, redoing a power of
yeah,
attorney. And I find that with whether it's mediation or attorneys, they might mention a few things, but those nitty gritty details, that's not part of the divorce. But it's
right.
something that needs to be done after the divorce. So the attorney isn't trying to coach you on beneficiaries
Yeah.
and how to change the RG&E bill, but it's so important, and it's kind of like at the end it's like okay, like we signed on the
Little
dotted
by
line,
little.
but there's a little bit of work left. Let's take a little breather or keep chugging along. But
Yeah.
there's still a little bit of work to do. And I'm going to point out those things. Doesn't mean that I'm going to be the one to do them. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But I like to keep a circle of other professionals around me so that if it's something that I can't do, which I don't do taxes. I know about taxes. I have to know about taxes. I do a lot
Yeah.
of creative stuff with divorce settlements because of taxes, but I don't sit there and actually do them. I'm not an accountant. So I say that at least your first year after divorce, you should really have an accountant,
Right.
helping you out with your taxes because things are going to be so different, and just trying to maximize what you're able to do on your own afterwards. There's something that I
Absolutely.
just thought of, Stacy, that's a little bit different that you were able to do and chose to do in your divorce. So there was a family business, and oftentimes women think that there are hidden assets or they're entitled to part of a business. And oftentimes they are. Oftentimes they are. But sometimes things are set up a certain way where you're not going to be able to get equitable distribution from a family business or as much from a business as you thought. And there's a certain point where it makes sense to not fight something, especially if you're comfortable with what the equitable distribution is going to be already. You don't want to fight for every little thing if it's not realistic. Some attorneys will just keep going and going and going when the client's pretty much like, I'm good. I like what
Mhm.
everything looks like. Jillian said it looks good. So would you be able to tell me kind of what that felt like? Do you think you would have been able to say, I don't want to spend all that time and money because I do think
Yeah.
everything is fine? And
Yeah.
would you have been able to do that if you and I weren't working together?
I think that, my situation's different too, right? Not
Mhm.
everyone's situation will be like this, but we came to terms with a lot of the things on our own without the lawyers, but I would never have not had my lawyer because again, I just didn't know and I
Mhm.
wouldn't have been able to feel comfortable or know that it was fair for me without my lawyer.
Mhm.
Um, but we did talk about things
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
ourselves, but we also, started the divorce process, I think, in a positive light.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
tried to just um, talk about the things I was thankful for. So when it came time, I remember my lawyer said a couple of times, well, we can, do this, and we can look into this. And
Yeah.
I knew it meant more time and more money on the lawyer end of it, which is
Mhm.
expensive already. And I
Mhm.
also wasn't looking to nickel and dime everything. But
Yeah.
again, this is just my situation. The things that were important to me, we decided on, and I had those things.
Mhm.
The house being one of them. The place where my kids call home. They have most of them had their own apartments. Um, two did not. So, being able to stay in the same place, would we have been fine if we couldn't? Yes. Yes, we would have found something different. It would have been fine. Everyone would have had the spaces that we would have made it work. But
Yeah.
I think I wasn't interested in the nickel and dime piece of it. It didn't feel right for me. And
Mhm. Yeah.
I had what I needed to be comfortable and be fine.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
didn't know if I was going to have to pick up a second job. I'm a teacher. I don't make that much money. Um, but that
And
would have
that's why we looked at it. That's why we had all our scenarios before you signed on the dotted line.
right,
Yeah.
right. So, yeah, I wasn't looking to, you know, have every last penny that I was entitled to. I just
Yeah.
didn't. But again,
Exactly.
that's just me.
Well, everyone's situation is different. And
Yeah,
there's other women that are in your situation, but they get different advice from different people.
yeah,
They can
yeah,
be talking to their best friend that says, you need to do this and that and go to court and whatever it may be. And that's not the case. You need to do what's right for you. And if you know that it feels good and it looks good
yeah.
and you trust everyone that you've gone over it with, like me, right? Then well, what? Why bother? It's not like you're giving up $1 million, like, oh, there's $1 million in the
No,
bank
right,
account, he can
right.
have it. That's completely different. That's making the decision once you have all the facts, you've looked at the scenarios, you know you're going to be okay. So once you're able to do all these things, it's pretty easy to make those types of decisions, right? I,
Right.
I mean, I would assume that most people would not want to be making those decisions before they know all the facts and before that they
Right.
have looked at different scenarios and what life is after divorce. But you of course had already done that. And another thing I just thought of when you were talking about attorneys is a lot of a lot of women that come to me, and it's usually right during the consultation or close to it, they think that having an attorney means that you're fighting and you're going to court. I mean, probably everyone that's listening right now, they know by now this is is and was very amicable, but you used attorneys. You did not use a mediator. I think it's great to use attorneys. And I tell people that it absolutely does not mean that you're fighting and going, head to head and going to court. Um, would you be able to speak to how the attorneys worked with each other? Were they talking back and forth with each other for you?
Um, I think initially they were talking back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I found like, reflecting back after, I wouldn't have done it differently. Let's just say that. I felt like it was important. I just, talked with you and found a lawyer. I didn't even really think about mediation. I didn't think we were going to be arguing about things. But like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to be entitled to what I was entitled to because I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think it took about 2 years for me for the divorce to go all the way through the process. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was hard for me because I think things started to slow a little bit. I sort of became less confident in my lawyer as time went on because there was just such large spaces of time in between the next step processes.
Yeah.
And when I had to reach out to be like, hey, where are we in this? Like, what do we need to do next? How's it going? That
Mm-hmm.
cost me money
Right.
just to reach out. And so once I
Right.
figured that out a little bit, and of course, over time, like you said, I had gained confidence. I got a
Yep.
little grumpy about it and said,
Yeah.
you can switch and find someone different to finish
Mm-hmm.
this up. Um, so I think that was a little bit hard. That was a little
Yeah.
discouraging.
Yeah.
I think that cost me more
Mm-hmm.
money than it
Mm-hmm.
needed to. Um, my ex's lawyer did not wasn't as expensive. He didn't spend the money I did, but again, I wouldn't have done it differently
Mm-hmm.
because I could walk away at the end and be like, I did that. I did what I needed to do, and
Right.
I feel confident in the result.
Right. The end result. Yeah. It wasn't exactly how you wanted to get there, but the result was
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that was exactly what you wanted.
So I
Um,
think just, speak up, right? Just,
Speak. Oh yeah, absolutely. Speak up. Yeah.
Mhm.
And attorneys are so different. And one thing that I now tell people, because I learn along the way too, one thing that I now tell women is some specific questions to ask at the beginning of the process. And a lot of this can be in writing. How long is it going to take for you to get back to me? When I
Yep.
call, when I email, are we talking 24 hours? Is your paralegal getting back to me? Is your paralegal hourly rate your rate? So if an attorney is $400 an hour, but the paralegal calls, are they billing $400 an hour? When they spend 5 minutes on an email, what are they rounding up to? Are they rounding up at all? It's a lot of little things, but it's, something that I can coach women through. I think I might make up a sheet pretty soon. I give you, like you said earlier, all
Yeah.
that information in the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
Just before you even hire me, I give that information out because I want to be able to give something back regardless if a woman is going to be working with me. But just a sheet of, here's a few things to ask the attorney. Here's a few things to ask the mediator. Because sometimes mediation is a good idea. And I have that list that, you saw way back when, the documents that you can get ready,
Yep.
what paying for divorce could look like. And gosh, I should know all of them because I think there's about five, but Nancy takes care of a lot of that. And
Yeah.
for anyone listening, when I say Nancy, she's my assistant and she's involved in the process. And she's amazing and sweet. And Stacy, right? She's the best.
Absolutely. I
She's
just told her a few minutes ago it takes a village to, you know. I was struggling
right.
with Zoom and Nancy was amazing. She's
Right,
always amazing.
exactly. Right, exactly. And she's been working with me for so many years. And so if anyone, does work with me as you worked with me, then Nancy's a part of that picture. And I think it's just really important for anyone that I'm close to to have the same vision as I do and treat the women that I work with the same
Yeah.
way and encourage them and make them feel safe. And Nancy's there to hold your hand, as am I, for anything that's needed. You need help getting statements online, we do that.
Yeah.
We hold hands as much as it needs to be. It's very boutique. It is not cookie cutter, right, Stacey? It's
Right.
there
Right.
is not just like, hey, here's the service we offer, give us a few
Yeah.
$100. Some women that work with me need, let's say 5 hours, right? That is on the low end. They usually need more. I've had cases where it's 40 hours.
Yeah.
It depends. A lot of it depends on how long your divorce is going on. And a lot of it depends on, and this isn't your case, Stacy, the attorney and the soon to be ex spouse. They can really slow things down
Yeah.
by just not following the rules or taking their time or whatever it
Yeah.
may be. But I don't want to end on a negative note there, but we will wrap up. What I do want to
Okay.
ask, so I think this is really important, Stacy, is especially thinking about your old self. For any woman that is thinking about divorce, they're listening to you, they're listening to me. They're not sure if they can, they should make a complimentary consultation with me. What would you tell her?
I would say absolutely call Jillian. I have told actually multiple people
Yes.
who have come to me, asking, knowing that I've pretty recently gone through it. Um, First of all, absolutely call Jillian because you just need to have the knowledge
Mhm,
to
mhm,
know that it's okay. Also, everyone deserves to be happy.
mhm,
And whatever that looks like, whatever that means, if you have spent time thinking about it, it's probably something you need to do.
mhm, mhm.
You were there when I wasn't sure. It could have been a question that didn't even really relate to you. I mean, I didn't bombard you night and day with things, but you were always there. And if you didn't know, you had someone who did know. And
Mm,
that's just what you need to initially get going.
mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, I don't want
Yeah.
to, advocate divorce, but if
Mm.
you're thinking about it and you think that it's best for you, it's best for you. Just do it.
Right, right. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. At least find out the facts. Sometimes, someone will come to me and we find out it's not time.
Yeah.
Now, usually it's not time because we need to get some things ready, but it's okay. It's just a
Yeah.
consultation. That's all it is. It's gathering
Right.
knowledge. It's getting your ducks in a row. Have a consult with an attorney. Have a consult with me. If I'm not the person for you, I'm going to tell you that. And I'll give you a person, as long as I have one that I can send you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to thank you so much for talking with me today
Of
and
course.
all these women that you're helping by sharing your story. I truly appreciate that.
It's my
Um,
pleasure.
yeah,
My
yeah.
pleasure.
I can talk all about how I help women, but when they hear the women that I've actually helped and I continue to work with, I think that's a lot different. So thank you
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
much,
Of
Stacey.
course. Anything for you. Yes.